Good morrow, ladles and jelly spoons. Today, I thought I would discuss dreams. More specifically, recurring dreams. One recurring dream that I had, very, now that I think about it, frightening dream that I had. As far back as I can remember. Well, I can remember pretty far back. I remember being in my diapers and I couldn't talk yet, so maybe 4 until I think I was 12, but it was the same dream for years, and I'll try to describe it the way that I remember it. Imagine you're walking through a forest, not overly thick, beautiful and green. The sun is shining, the air is warm, but when you step within the shadows, it's cool. It almost feels as though it's spring. And as you're walking, you come across a clearing, and as you move forward, you see mountains in the distance. Apparently you're on a mountain, and there's snow on those mountains in the distance. They look like monoliths, and you're very small. And as the crisp grass crunches beneath your bare feet, you notice there's this strange thing set within the middle of this meadow, I suppose you could say. Because it was still surrounded with trees. It was almost like this, like the way the trees, and there was bushes, and there's this small clearing. And you realize that it's a small structure. I forget what they're called. Gazebo. It looks old. And it's made out of wood, obviously, but it's an old wood structure, something you would see during the Viking era. This is very important. Why, I can't explain it, but this is important. And as you walk toward it, suddenly the scene changes and there's a figure in front of you, much larger than you are, much larger. And it's a female with almost white blonde hair, so very pale golden blonde hair, split down the middle perfectly in thick, tight braids on the sides of her face that stop about here. Very pale skin, dark arched brows, very round face. Very different from mine though. Wish I could draw her, I probably could. And she was wearing a traditional German or Swedish garb, the feminine version of like lederhosen, but different. And she had the little shoes, not the shoes, but the wooden shoe. And she was beautifully dressed. It was the short dress, and like went right past the poofy white sleeves. And I remember her cold hands wrapped securely around my neck. And she was so much bigger than me. And I remember looking up into her solid black eyes, completely without color. They were black. There was no expression on her face, but what you could see within her eyes was pure malice. There wasn't anger, it was just not death, not hatred. It was something else. Something inhuman. And I remember not being afraid of her, even though she was so much larger than me and she was trying to kill me. She had her hands wrapped around my neck. And I remember we would spin in a circle and I would wake up. Mind you, I hadn't seen anything like that in movies. I'd watched many movies as a child, and I'd never seen anything like that before. And as I got older, I kept having that dream. What makes it creepier, it was the exact same dream, but I was larger. I was starting to reach her height. And the last time I had that dream, I had this dream for years. For years, it never changed, except for the last time, when we were the same height. I guess she was really short, but we were the same height, and I had my hands wrapped around her throat. And it's the first time that I saw fear very slightly change her features. She looked terrified, and I woke up. I can't explain it. I don't know where it comes from. It never scared me. It was just weird. And as I got older, I realized the landscape that I was seeing was nothing I've ever seen before here in the States. So strange. And I have two other dreams, which would be considered nightmares. My normal dreams are everyone else's nightmares. So when I have a nightmare, it's like a night terror. It's probably why I'm really good at writing horror stories. Two dreams in particular. One is really strange. I might do some research on it to see if this actually happened to someone, because it's weird. I was maybe 5.5, and I remember in the dream, it wasn't me. I was an adult. I was getting into a small train, like a tiny, the kind of train that's like a little ride. And it was a small amusement park, but it was in a very thickly, heavily forested area, and it, not like the other dream actually. The trees were different. They were thick pine trees, and it was more of a flatland area. And it was somewhere out here in the States. And I remembered what I looked like. Not my face, but my body type. I was a woman, very lithe, very thin in build. She was wearing a long sleeve striped shirt, narrow rib cage, almost like a ballerina, just naturally tiny, square shoulders, tall. She had to be, I don't know if she was 17, very hippie-ish, kind of like a flower child. And that's what it felt like, that kind of time period. And it was a nice day, and she sat down. She was somewhere in the back. It wasn't too busy, but she sat back in the end, and it was the way the seats were set up was one person each. So somebody could sit behind you. And I remember sitting down, and my back wasn't her back. Sounds so weird. Explain again. I was a kid when I had this dream, so it doesn't make any sense. And I hadn't seen any movies that resembled what I'm describing to you. She sat back for a second, and I remember a shadow popped up behind her, behind me. And my brain interpreted it as somebody wearing a hockey mask, like they were in all black, but they could have very well just been in the shadow. And I remember the feeling of a 7-inch blade going into my spine. And I remember seizing up. I felt it go in, and it was cold. And when I woke up, gasping, because when it went in, the world went black, and I woke up. So that's a fun dream for a 5-year-old. And the other dream I had, this is the one I'm going to leave you with. This is the fun one. I had to be about 5 or 6, probably 6. Maybe 7. I don't know. It was around there. This one. I was in a hospital. The walls were dirty. The lights were flickering. It was cold. The linoleum floor was dirty. The bottom of my bare feet were black from dirt. The room is like this. The door is in front of me. I'm back here against the wall, the right-hand side, and there's just, I think it was a twin bed, and it was like a steel cot, so it was a real thick bars. And when you're that age, the bar was this thick to my hand. And I was curled up and holding on to it because it was really high up and the springs were really rusted and the mattress was dirty. And the lighting in the room was an off-white, almost greenish. And it faced an open doorway and a hall that went this way. And the hall was a different color. It was a more gold rusted. It sounds very Silent Hill. And I could hear screams and other things in the darkness, and the light kept flickering. And I remember looking down because I could hear first the wheezing, and somebody breathing through their teeth, ragged wheezing, and the slow, wet movement of feet, sliding, like struggling, one foot in front of the other, into the room. And I remember looking, I was holding on to the bar, and I was looking, and I could see the feet. There was gray muscle tissue. There was no red. It was gray and wet. And I could see the individual muscles and the tendons and veins protruding. And they were big feet. And I remember not wanting to look up. And as I did, the wheezing got louder, and there was a soft dripping sound. And when I looked up, I think it was a man. I couldn't tell. It was just muscle tissue. Imagine after a yatua or a predator has flayed a human being, and just imagine they're still alive, but they're not fresh anymore. Okay? Except at least those guys still had their lips and their eyelids. This thing had no eyelids, had no lips, had a concave nose. Still kind of had a nose, but it was looking at me and reaching out to me. And the eyes were pleading, and in that raspy, wheezing, broken, guttural voice, as if it had been screaming, I heard it say, "Help me find my skin. Help me find my skin." And as the hand got closer, I grabbed on very tightly to the steel leg of the bed, and it was cold, and before it touched me, I jolted awake. No idea where that came from. Hell of an imagination, right? So yeah, I thought I would share that with you. I've had many, many dreams. I have a lot of lucid dreams, all kinds of fun things, so in the comments down below, if you're willing, you know, I would love to read. It doesn't have to be the scariest dream you've ever had, but think of the weirdest dream you had as a kid that you cannot explain. Like, it's not just a normal brain fart. Childlike brain is trying to understand what it's been experiencing, and it doesn't know how, so it just goes into your brain. That's brain fart. It's a normal dream. Just think of a dream that there's really no explanation for. There was nothing to set it off, so where the hell did it come from? I still want to do some research on the one about dying somewhere. Some woman probably was murdered, and I just, like, dreamt of it. That's a whole nother video we're gonna do in the future about dreaming of things that happen. Yeah, that's fun. Ugh. Anyway, so please, If you have a weird dream that you cannot explain from your childhood, I just clapped for some unknown damn reason, please share it in the comments below. I would love to read them. If you like this, well, I hate fishing, but would you spank that like button? It's been naughty. And thank you so very much for watching. I do appreciate all of you, even those that may not even like me. The fact that you've taken a moment to stop and watch, and sometimes tell me that you didn't like it. You took the time to tell me, and that means something. So, thank you. Anyway, I hope you're all doing well, and I actually really look forward to what you have to tell me, dream-wise, because dreams are weird, and oh boy. And on that note, I'm gonna hush and get this here uploaded for you, and I shall see thee lovelies anon. Mwah. I'm weird. Adieu.